So I had to sand them down and refinish them. And let's face it, that's not always the most fun. So if you want to save yourself the trouble, just cut them down and call it good. What's up? I hope you're having an awesome day. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Jorge, and today I have 3 special DIYs that I think you're going to want to do. Now, before I get into them, I just quickly want to mention that when I look for DIYs, I really source inspiration from high-end interiors that really have sort of this rich quality to them. And I'm not just talking about like monetary quality, but sort of this like quality of bringing in sort of vintage pieces, bringing in modern things, blending classical things together, just all sorts of great things like that. But I'm super stoked about these because I've been wanting to do them for quite some time now. Plus, I'm trying out resin for the first time and I love it. So I've been wanting some milking stools for the longest time. I think they're really cool. I'll put some photos of ones that I'm loving. But what's great about these is that you can pretty much put these anywhere. Put them in the living room by the coffee table, use it as a side table, maybe that random corner that you don't know what to do with, or a bathroom. Random places, and they're great for photos too. So for the first 2 projects, we're going to be creating milking stools. And the first one's going to be a little bit more simple, and then the next one's actually going to be upholstered. And by the way, these are actually done with just like secondhand stools that I found. So go to your thrift stores, get some stools. Doesn't matter if they're ugly. We're going to just transform them and make them look high-end. All right? So this is the bar stool we are working with. I actually picked this up at the thrift store a couple of weeks ago. You might have seen this in my thrifting video. And I'm gonna trim down the legs to a shorter length. Now bar stools, or I guess milking stools, are very short actually. So I'm gonna just use this little turn detail, and as you can see me measuring and cutting this just with a little handsaw. And it's actually quite easy to cut this down. Now keep in mind that this stool is going to be more for decorative purposes. I'm not really looking to sit on this all day or anything like that. These stools are typically just for decor, just to move them around and things like that. So I'm not that much worried about the structural integrity of this. Even though it's pretty solid, I just keep that in mind. And the first thing that I'm going to do after cutting this is going to sand this down. And the reason for that is that this orangey wood tone just won't work with my design style. But I certainly have seen some stools out there that you can just cut the feet and call it good and not have to worry about refinishing. But nonetheless, here I am sanding because I love sanding. Not really, but this is a small stool. It's not that bad. I could sand this by hand, but I have an orbital sander, so I might as well use it. It's actually like a couple of dollars. This sander has gotten me through a lot and it's very affordable. I'll link it down below. So I'm just sanding this off using I think 40 or 60 grit sandpaper. It's very coarse, but it's really knocking off that existing finish. Also keep in mind that I'm not too worried about knocking off all the existing finish. There's still some of it left on there, but that's okay. This stool is going to be stained very dark, so I'm not that worried. Also, I have to say, I really love working outside. It's just a beautiful time of the year, and I don't know, it's really calming for me. Now to prep for the sanding, I'm just giving it a good wipe down just to get rid of all of that dust. Now before I stain, I always love to use a pre-stained wood conditioner, and what this does is it basically you apply this onto the raw wood, and what this does is that when you apply the stain, it absorbs that stain nicely and it's not splotchy, so it looks like more professionally done and not so splotchy, which is not something I like. For the stool, I want to go dark, so I'm actually going to stain it with some ebony by Minwax, and then once that coat dries, I'm going to follow up with some dark walnut. And this will really bring out a really nice color that maybe you might not be able to pick up on camera, but I think is a really nice dark color. And the reason for this is I see a lot of these a lot of these milking stools, sort of a really dark color, and I think it's just really beautiful. But again, this is just a personal preference. You can do whatever finish you like. Maybe you can even paint the stool black or something like that. Up until this point, I just put the ebony stain and I like the way it turned out, and I added some dark walnut tone afterwards. I wish I would have just stopped before that because it just ultimately made it too dark and hard to see that wood grain. But such a small detail, maybe I'm the only one that can actually notice. But nonetheless, I'm very happy with the way it turned out. So once that dried, I added some polyurethane, and that does it for this project. So let's take a look at the final result. Okay, that little stool is very charming. Let me know what you think about it. For this next stool, I'm actually inspired by some stools that I saw here on Insta. I'll put it here on the screen, but basically these stools have a shearling cushion to them. So I'm gonna recreate my own using some faux shearling that I picked up at the store. And I don't know, I really like the way it turned out. I also wanna say that you can totally just get a stool, cut down the legs and call it a day. The stools that I got weren't in the right color tone for me, so I had to sand them down and refinish them. And let's face it, that's not always the most fun. So if you want to save yourself the trouble, just cut them down and call it good. So this is the other bar stool that we're working with, and again, I thrifted this. I think it was $6. There's always bar stools when I go to thrift stores. So I'm gonna cut this one down again. This one I'm gonna leave a little bit taller than the previous one, and I'm gonna use sort of this footrest rod situation as a guide on where to cut, and just using my handsaw again. Now for this bar stool, like I said, I'm going to be upholstering it, and technically I don't really need to sand down the top, but I'm gonna do it anyways in case I ever want to remove the upholstering and just leave the stool as is. Of course, I'm going to use my little orbital sander just to help me power through and knock off a lot of that existing finish. Again, I could do this by hand, and in the end I actually went in with like hand sandpaper and just got into the little corners. Now once that is fully sanded down, it's time to add some stain. Now I'm actually going to create one of my custom stains that I love. It's a really nice like neutral stain, and for this I'm going to use some Minwax. I'm going to add some Simply White, and then some weathered oak, and then some dark walnut. And I would say I probably did equal parts of these, so I'm mixing that thoroughly, and it's going to give me this really cool kind of like mocha color. And then of course I'm going to apply some pre-stained wood conditioner just so that it absorbs that stain nicely. After about 5 minutes, I then add that custom stain that we did here, and as you can see, it's really knocking off, getting rid of those yellowy golden red tones of the wood, which I'm not personally a fan of these days. And I don't know, I think this color is just really nice, almost like a weathered oak. It's beautiful, and just let that soak in for a couple of minutes. Then I'm gonna come back with like just a dry rag and just remove any excess, just so that I can really see through the grain as well. I let that stain dry for a few hours, then I came back and added some polyurethane just to protect this and last for years to come. Let that dry overnight, and we're going to work on the upholstering in the morning. So it is the following day and we're ready to upholster this bad boy, which honestly I could have just stopped here because this stool already looks nice as is, but I want that faux shearling seat cushion, so I picked up about a yard of this from Joann's Fabrics. You can probably find this at any fabric store. Also, you can consider using like a Sherpa blanket. I know that they're pretty affordable, so consider that. So I'm gonna add some rug padding here, and honestly, I've never upholstered anything before, which I'm surprised, but I'm gonna use this like foam pad just to add some extra seat support, or cushioning, I should say. So cutting the circle out here, and then also you wanted to use like a poly fill, sort of this like cushion wrap cover. I don't know what this is called, but this again helps just to make it look a little bit cleaner in the end. So I'm gonna also take my Sherpa here and cut down But look at how cozy this is. Don't you just want to curl up with this? Very nice. And one thing that you could notice here is that in the center, it kind of just feels a little flat to me. So I'm going to just take some of the extra sort of polyfill and just cut like a little circle just to put in the center of it. This will just make it a little bit more rounded, a little bit poofy, I should say. I'm going to make my life a little bit easier, and I'm going to trim down that faux shearling and padding into a circle just so that there isn't excess fabric getting in the way. Then I'm going to take my staple gun and staple it to the bottom of the stool and kind of just working around the stool almost in opposite directions just so that it's nicely tight. We want to get this as tight as we can, not too tight, but tight enough. And one thing I love about this is that if I ever get sick of this shearling or whatever you want to call it, I can remove it in the future and just have the stool by itself. I think it would look really nice. I'm going to trim off the excess fabric here just to get it nice and clean. Also, I want to take some time and invite you to check me out on Instagram. Lots of you have been loving my content over there, so come say hi. But that does it for this stool. I think it looks really nice. So let's take a look at the final footage and pretty photos and all that stuff. So I'm currently in the middle of giving my bathroom a makeover, and I'm excited to share that video soon, so be sure you're subscribed. But for the bathroom, I need 2 wall sconces, or I guess vanity lights. And lately I've been into these sconces that are made out of stone, and I think it's alabaster, and oh my gosh, they look so nice. And I think they look great, not just like in a bathroom. I think these are great sort of like behind a sofa, like on a sofa wall, or maybe like any space that you don't want to put some wall art. I think those are statements in itself, kind of like sculptures but on walls. But there are 2 problems with this. First, they're expensive as heck. I don't want to spend so much money on that. And second of all, those are more accent lighting, decorative, not really utilitarian. In a bathroom, I want to make sure that I can see myself. So I'm going to take inspiration from that and create my own wall sconces using some globe light fixtures. Now, globe light fixtures I feel like are very affordable. They're like $10 or so. Of course, I will link everything that I use below. But I think these light fixtures are going to look really nice with the design plan that I have for my bathroom. I won't get into that in this video, but regardless, I think these would look nice, kind of just like anywhere. And I'm going to show you a trick on how you can add light to them without hard wiring, because I know that's not always an option. As mentioned, I'm going to use this globe light fixture. Actually, I'm going to use 2 of them because they will end up in my bathroom vanity. But these are so affordable. They're pretty much everywhere, including Amazon, which I will link below. So I'm going to remove that globe part of it because I'm going to make sort of a faux stone ring that's going to go around this, which you will see here in a moment. So first I'm going to trace a circle onto this plastic plate, which I got I think at Dollar Tree. This is a 6-inch plate, by the way. It doesn't really matter. You can definitely go larger and make a larger sort of faux stone thing to it. And I'm going to put some hot glue around the circle that I drew out and put some of this cardboard that I bent into the circle. This is going to be the mold for our resin, which we want to make sure is nice and ready to go. Now, like I said, I haven't really worked with epoxy resin before, and I'm so happy to try this out finally. And I picked up this kit from Amazon, and it's perfect because it's basically a 1-to-1 ratio. I also picked up this mica powder. I don't know how it's pronounced, but basically this will add color to the resin. And in the end, I ended up using, I believe, the light brown, the white, and the gold. So I'm going to activate sort of the resin part and just mix the part A and B together. Mix that up for a couple of minutes until basically it becomes clear. So maybe like 3 or 4 minutes. And then I'm going to go ahead and take the stock solution that I made and split it up into 3 cups just so that I can add the different colors. And like I said, I'm using the white and the gold and the light brown, so that is what I added to these. And then I poured that white onto the mold that we made with the plates, and then using sort of the stirring stick for the gold, I kind of just tried to add it onto sort of that white that I added, kind of just to create sort of veining look to it. As you notice with like alabaster or in all of those stones, it has a little bit of veining, a little bit of yellow. So I'm really just trying to recreate that look. And then of course I added the light brown. Now with resin, it takes a couple of hours to cure. So I let that cure for about 24 hours before removing it from the mold, which is recommended from the manufacturer. As you notice, it came out nicely from that plastic plate. However, the cardboard kind of stuck to the inside perimeter, or the inside of the ring, and using some sanding paper, you can just sand that off with some high coarse sandpaper, or if you have something like this, like a file or something like that, you can just kind of just file away at it. It doesn't have to be too perfect, but as long as you get that cardboard out. Now, I'm going to actually sand this ring, this faux stone we'll call it, because I really like the look of like sort of honed marble or honed any material, and that I think it just feels really nice. Also using my orbital sander just because I have it. Just be very careful, and again, make sure you're wearing protective a mask and all that stuff, and just look at the way that this looks in the light. Very like sort of just translucent. I don't know, I think it's really just wonderful. And finally, it is time to paint the actual light fixture itself. In this case, I'm going to, well, first of all, I'm taping off the wires and the part where you put the light bulb in. Just we don't want to get that painted, but I want to paint this in a color tone that is going to work with my bathroom, and in this case I'm going to use a bronze, and this one is by Rust-Oleum, and this is like you see here, satin bronze, and it's not brass. Brass is a little bit more, I guess, shiny and a little bit more glammy, even just depends on how you use it. This one, I feel like it just feels like a little bit more vintage to me, a little bit, I don't know, like dirty. So once that fully dried, I then just took some just black paint, and then just using like a sponge, not a sponge, like a paper towel. I tried with a brush, but it works best with just a paper towel, and kind of just like rubbing it on and off until you get sort of like a patina look to it. But I think that turns out really nicely. So once that fully dries, it is time to assemble this bad boy. And like I said, this is going to be going in my bathroom, so I'm going to be hardwiring it there. But for the time being, I just want to show you what it's going to look like. You can use a puck light if you want to just do like that puck light trick. As you can see, this one is a little bit too large, so maybe I'll try to find something smaller that will actually fit. So I'm just going to go ahead and assemble this, and let me just show you some of that final footage, just so you get an idea of what this looks like. Today's DIYs. Let me know if you have a favorite or if you plan to recreate any of them, and of course tag me on Instagram. I love seeing your DIYs. Now if you enjoyed this video, of course hit that like button. It would really help out the channel. I want to thank you so much for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this. Bathroom makeover coming soon, and I'm going to put a playlist of other DIYs that I think you're going to enjoy. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.